Welcome, everybody, to Victory Circle Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today, we have José Rodríguez. He's a communication consultant and coach and TED Talk speaker. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Jason. A pleasure to be here.
Oh, great to have you, man. How's it out there in sunny California?
Exactly. Sunny Southern California is sunny as usual. So what can I say?
All right. So, man, we love to get into your life purpose. So starting from the beginning, Jose, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, I was one of those people who didn't quite know what they wanted to do when they grew up. So I didn't get up in the morning and say, hey, I want to be a professor. I want to get a PhD. That's my life mission. No, I did it stumbling successfully, as I like to say, right? You kind of get through moments of life, or you go through certain moments, and then one thing leads to another, right? You connect with the right people, you go to school, you form a particular network. And so for me, that was the process, going and getting an undergraduate degree, connecting with my mentor, Dr. Ellis Hayes, who I met, years and years ago. And really through that process of connecting with him and becoming a part of his organization, he was putting together a training program at the time. I was able to open doors to, consulting, to graduate school, to earning a PhD and those kinds of things. So again, it really speaks to things that are dear to our hearts, networking and connecting with people to open doorways for ourselves and for others for the greater good.
So, man, I love your story, though, how you became a communication consultant. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So one night, I was actually, it was during the day, right? We were in class, and the professor was talking about their business proposal or their business plan, right? That they were putting together a seminar company, and they invited us to an introductory evening, right? Where you go, you check it out, you talk to people, blah, blah, blah. So I went, and I took the seminar. It was like a weekend thing, and I just loved it, right? So I was an undergraduate at the time. I was just getting my undergraduate degree. And then because I connected with him, I was able to, bond with him. We became business partners. It opened the door to graduate school because I saw what he was doing. I go, hey, this looks like a great gig, right? To be able to, share your knowledge with other people, connect with other people, stay connected with learning and growing. And so I was an undergrad at the time, but through my connection with him, I was able to obviously find the motivation and the support because, he wrote me a letter of recommendation and those kinds of things that opened doors. And then I went to grad school, right? I got my master's degree. And through that process, I learned that I was a pretty good teacher. And I thought, I'd like to continue to do this. And I applied to a couple of PhD programs. I got accepted. And, I discovered that path, right, of becoming the person that you've always wanted to be, but you never knew that you could be because, you didn't have the vision all figured out at the beginning. That's one of the things I tell my students, and I tell other folks that are starting on their journey is I go, look, you may not have a clear picture of exactly how things are going to unfold. Most of us don't, right? But it unfolds organically. It unfolds through a normal gradual process of connecting with people, staying on focus, taking it one step at a time. And that way you allow yourself, to kind of stay motivated and stay focused and not get upset that something maybe doesn't go exactly right, because there's always a struggle, right? There's always a tension. There's always something that, that takes you in an odd direction, or there's a glitch that you didn't quite anticipate, but that's all part of the journey, part of staying on track, staying on purpose, and staying true to the person that you are.
Jose, one of my biggest fears in college was public speaking. Do you help students with that at all?
Yeah, public speaking. Yeah. I think
the fear part.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think there's this great statistic that fear of public speaking is larger than fear of death, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but it's a funny statistic to talk about. And yeah, in our course, we talk about interpersonal communication, which is about relationships, getting along, self-disclosing, being vulnerable, coming together, breaking up, things like that. But as a part of the class, there's a segment where students get to participate in a public speaking opportunity. In other words, they have to present like a 5-minute speech. It's pretty short, but it gives them an opportunity to get their feet wet and to have that experience of preparing a speech, delivering a speech in front of an audience, and really being in a community of supportive people where nobody's going to heckle you, everybody's on your side. And as soon as somebody sees you stepping up to the plate, they want to support you, right? So being in that environment that's very supportive and collaborative, people feel much more empowered, right? So that they have a good first experience. And that way, the next experience hopefully isn't as traumatic.
Right. Yeah, I know how it is, man, because
Yeah.
God, that's one of the worst fears that you can have, I think, is public speaking.
It is. It can be very terrifying because, like most of us, you don't know what to say at times. Where do I begin? What do I do? People are looking at me. I feel embarrassed. Everybody thinks that whatever, my hair is all messed up, or that I missed some quote, or I said something wrong, or I made too many uhs and ahs and unfilled pauses, or whatever it is. And the bottom line is most people are not focusing on that too much, to be very honest. Most people are just, sitting there cheering you on. Most people are, wanting you to succeed. So that way, basically, they're entertained and they're not bored because you said something interesting and you go, wow, that person said something interesting. That was kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. Wow, they did a good job. So I think if you realize that most people are rooting for you, and what you need to do is just focus on what you want to say and practice, right? I think practice is very, very important because a lot of times we just want to wing it, right? We go, okay, I'll be fine. I got a couple of notes. It'll just come to me. And that really doesn't work. A lot of times it's about rehearsal and practicing and making index cards for yourself, even videotaping yourself on your device, playing it back, see what you did that was maybe awkward, and then saying, oh gosh, I don't want to do that again. And with that feedback, your brain kind of learns to calibrate and you perform better the next time around. So those are some of the techniques that we share with students and with people in general about the power of public speaking. What I'd like to do is share a 4-step process that it's not really mine. I'm sure people have seen this in some way, shape, or form, but it's the practice of mindfulness, right? And when we talk about mindfulness, a lot of times it's this large idea and people don't quite know what it is, or people have an idea of what it is, or people think it's meditation. And really, it is a process. And the more you understand the process, I think the easier it is to do. So it's a 4-step process for whenever you feel triggered, when you feel emotional, when you feel angry, whatever the trigger is, it's a 4-step process. The first step is to pause, right? The second step is to breathe, because if you realize one of the first things that we do when we're stressed out is we stop breathing. We go, right? And that just is not good. Your heart starts pumping, your adrenaline starts going because your body goes into emergency mode and it makes things worse. So breathing becomes very important. The third part is to reflect. And reflect basically means, hey, what's going on here? What is this? What's arising? What's happening? And the last step is to choose, to take some type of action that is thoughtful, useful, helpful. So let's look at an example. Okay, let's say that there's this public speaking situation and I'm stressed out and I'm freaking out or whatever, right? I can just pause, breathe, and in the breath, that takes the mind out of the moment of trauma and into the physical body, really. It's breathing, it's the breath, right? That's why the breath is so important. To just breathe and then have a moment of reflection and just go, what's going on here? What is this? There's this feeling of anxiety, or there's this feeling of stress, or there's this feeling of nervousness, whatever you want to call it. See if you can just take a moment to reflect on the feeling and give it a name, right? And you don't have to say my stress, just say the stress or the anger or the anxiety. And that way you're using language to almost depersonalize it and give it some distance, right? And after you've had that moment of reflection, then you can say or do what you think might be helpful or useful. And the idea is to choose a behavior or a response that is useful, that is helpful, that's beneficial. That might be pausing some more. It might be listening to some music. It might be having a conversation with somebody else. The idea is that you're choosing thoughtfully instead of going into a mindless reaction, right? There's this great adage back from many years ago. Rollo May, the very famous social psychologist, talked about creating a gap between the stimulus and the response, right? There's a stimulus and there's a response, but there's usually a gap in between. And that gap between the stimulus and the response is where choice takes place. And that's where mindfulness comes in. Between the time you get triggered to the time you respond, there's a variety of things that you can do. And through this process of mindfulness, of pausing, breathing, reflecting, and then choosing, you can create an outcome that is more helpful, beneficial, and useful for you and for those that you love.
Oh, that's fascinating, man. Where were you when I was in college?
Yeah, we were both probably in college.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So we were all like kind of learning this stuff, right?
Exactly. No, but this is, man, I know that my audience is going to get so much value out of this today. This is awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Go ahead.
So you did a phenomenal TED Talk. How did that come about?
Well, again, stumbling successfully, right? It wasn't like I planned this all out. Well, let me tell you, Jason, I figured this out when I was 4 years old, and I've been planning my life, right? No, it wasn't like that, right? It was one of those moments, again, where an opportunity presents itself and then you take advantage of it, right? So I was working on creating programs to develop scientific knowledge for the general public. So we got together as a community on campus and we were training scientists and psychologists and professors to communicate effectively with the media, to disperse science, right? To make things knowledgeable, help the public understand public knowledge, as we like to say, right? And in that process, there was a call to apply to do a TED Talk, right? And initially I didn't want to do it because I thought, well, what am I going to say, right? And I thought, I don't know, if I apply, I'm not going to get it. It's going to be a very popular thing. So many people are going to be applying, the normal things that arise in consciousness, right? Normal things that happen to everybody. And because I know about mindfulness, I took a second look at my first thought, right? I paused, I breathed, I reflected, and I chose, and I said, all right, let me apply. So I called a buddy of mine who had done it like the year before, and he had done a really nice intro video, because that's another thing that was a hang up for me. I didn't know how to produce a video. I don't have a lot of the technology and how to create a nice intro that would attract attention and would get people to choose me, right?
Right.
So I contacted a buddy of mine who had done it previously, and I liked the background that he had, and he had this camera set up, and he said, hey man, come on down. So I went to his garage and he had it all set up. It was beautiful. And so we did like 4 takes of a very basic intro that I came up with on my drive to his house. I was going, okay, what am I going to say? So I created my pitch on the drive to his place. We ran it about 4 times and we posted the one that we liked the most, right? I submitted it, did the application, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, they gave me a call and they said, hey, we'd like to bring you in for a semi-finalist interview. Are you interested? And I go, sure. So I went in, we had a nice conversation about, what I was going to talk about. And they asked me some standard TEDx type questions. And at the end of all that, I go, I don't know if I did a good job or if they like me, because you never know, right? You never know. Do people like you? Do they not like you? Or do they say that they like you, but they really don't like you because they're trying to be polite? You don't know. So about 4 weeks after that, they gave me a call and they said, hey, we liked your presentation. We'd like to invite you to do the TED Talk. What you need to do is come and rehearse with us 3 or 4 times throughout the next few months to get ready. And sure enough, that's what I did. I also hired my own TEDx coach. So I hired a voice coach because I knew that I wasn't ready. I had been lecturing before and I'd done presentations, but I really hadn't done a TED Talk, in a huge audience on that red circle with the lights in your face and the counting down the time, which is absolutely nerve-wracking. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So I had to rehearse a lot. I was rehearsing in my car. I was recording myself on my device. I was in my living room rehearsing. I rehearsed with friends. I rehearsed with some colleagues. I went to a couple of classes to have a live audience, right? And that really helped to kind of get it into my body. You know what I mean? I went through about, I think, 22 different versions of the script, right? And I always share that with my students and with other people because people think, oh, you got a PhD, you've been lecturing for 20 years, you're a natural.
Right.
Nope. I had to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse because I knew that it was a new thing that I hadn't done before, right? Going back to, your question early on about public speaking, hey, it's a thing about practice, right? I mean, you look at professional athletes, right? You look at professional anything, people are practicing all the time. In fact, they say, hey, I'm going to practice. I'm going to go work out. So professional athletes practice all the time. It's the same thing for professional speakers, professional educators, professional podcasters. You're good at what you do because you do this all the time, right?
Yeah.
You're practiced and poised and rehearsed because you do that all the time. So that was a great lesson in terms of not only public speaking, but practicing mindfulness, like we talked about before, in my own life, and then being able to share that as an example for others.
That's great. I look at TED Talks all the time. And, we just don't realize how much work actually goes into that. So I appreciate you telling us that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. A lot goes into it. We met a lot of times. We gave each other feedback as a cohort, the people who were speakers, right? And the feedback was great. Everybody was very supportive. And, we had one major dress rehearsal. I was thinking we were going to have, 2 or 3, because I go, man, I need more than one dress rehearsal to get this down. But we only had one because of time constraints and issues. So we did the best we could, but I think it turned out okay.
No, it was great. But how many people were in the audience?
In the audience, probably about 200, maybe.
Yeah, that's a nice crowd.
Yeah, it was a nice crowd.
With all the mental health issues that we're seeing with athletes right now, and them having to handle stress on a totally different level in the media, what would you recommend for those athletes to basically stay at peace while they're trying to play the sport?
Yeah, I think it's a very challenging question, a very challenging issue. And I like to say, there are no magic bullets. There are no easy answers, but here's some things to do. One, adopting a practice of mindfulness, right? That process, that very simple process. It's very simple, but it requires action. In other words, you got to do it, right? You got to work it, right? So pausing, breathing, reflecting, and choosing, right? And just every day, right? Every moment that you have available to you to think, let me just pause. let me breathe, let me reflect, let me choose, and have that be a habit. So next time you get stressed or triggered, that can be a process for you very organically. Number two is to recruit social allies, recruit friends, recruit community, recruit people who support you. Very important. Three is to create a practice for yourself where you find peace. It might be taking an Epsom salt bath. It might be getting a massage. It might be yoga. It might be Tai Chi, whatever it is. And it's different for different people. It might be cycling, whatever it is. Those kinds of practices really help you just come down, because a lot of times I think mental health issues arise from something very normal and very organic, which is overwhelm, right? We get triggered, and then at some point the trigger just goes over the top, right? It's way too much. So being able to self-regulate and calm down and come back into your sense of authentic self through meditation, through an Epsom salt bath, through a massage, through Tai Chi, through meditation, those kinds of practices are really helpful to bring us into a centered place, right? And then obviously there's the opportunity to get a counselor or a coach or a social worker or a therapist that might be able to help you, right, navigate some of these challenges. Those are all systems that I think are in place. And again, I would use them synergistically, right? So not just do one thing, but all four things if you can. And that way, if you're practicing mindfulness and you're going inside with some kind of a practice like, Tai Chi or yoga, and you have a good circle of friends, and you're seeing a therapist or a social worker or someone that is an ally in a professional capacity, those are all systems in place that can help you stay balanced in the midst of struggle and find your way in moments that are challenging.
Now, see, that's what makes you a great coach.
Right. I went into, hey, here's number one, here's number two, here's number three. Boom.
Exactly.
Right. You got this. Right. Well, the thing is that those are the types of questions that we get from people, because people want to know, hey man, what do I do? Right. All this is great. All these theories or ideas or whatever are great, but what can I do in my world to make things better, right? What can I do in my situation to, navigate these challenging times? We all have them, right? We just survived 2 years of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And how did people survive, right? Well, let me tell you, we all survive by doing one or more of those. I see people all the time telling stories about, oh my God, I started working out during the pandemic. Why? To cope. Oh my God, during the pandemic, I started taking Epsom salt baths. Why? To cope.
Yeah.
Oh man, during the pandemic, I, developed a relationship with a therapist or a social worker. Why? To cope. During the pandemic, I got on LinkedIn and found this great community, right? And I connected with this guy named Jason. Oh my gosh, it was fantastic. Why? To cope. So all of those things, it's very important to realize, is just to become mindful or to become aware of what we're already doing and doing more of it strategically in ways that are helpful, useful, and beneficial to ourselves.
That's great. So Jose, if someone wants to hire you as their consultant, how does one go about it?
Well, you can go to my website. I gave you that cool link. I know you got it all figured out there. So my website, I believe, is www.joserodriguez.solutions. And they can find information there. They can contact me there. Obviously, my email is on there as well. They can find me on LinkedIn, where I'm at. So lots of easy channels to find me. I'm pretty easy to find. That'd be great. Yeah, give me a call. Send me some contact. Send me a link or a request. That would be great.
Okay. And do you mostly deal with people that are local, or do you handle clients that are online, that live in other states?
Yeah, I've done both, right? So I've done local clients. I've done, obviously, connections via Zoom or contact via Zoom. sometimes via Google Meet, right? Depending on the technology that people are most comfortable with. But yeah, I've done one-on-one stuff locally, but usually it is via Zoom or via Google Chat because people aren't always local, or it's very difficult to meet one-on-one sometimes because of the distance. So I had a contact not too long ago from Canada, and then another one actually from China. So there is an international collection of individuals. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Jose, man, it's been such a pleasure having you on our show. Do you have any last words for our guests?
Last words. You got this. I got this. We got this. Together we are strong. Stay golden and, take it one step at a time. Life is a journey and we're all in this process together. And I think that by realizing what we have in common, not what we have in difference, we create those moments of solidarity that really make life meaningful. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you and your community. And I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Victory Circle Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.